Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. Sadly, sad news to report today. Um, January the 21st, 2022. On the passing of three icons of the fashion and entertainment uh, world: Louie Anderson, the comedian, Meatloaf, the rock and roll legend, and Andre Leon Talley, the fashion icon, the fashion icon and designer from Vogue magazine. Yeah, well, the one I really learned about from this article that Lisa sent to me was Andre Leon Talley, who was a fashion designer in the 1980s and a guy that really broke down barriers in the fashion world in in that time period. He basically wrote the Bible on fashion in the 1980s. As we know, Vogue is like the be all end all, the tell all of the fashion world. If you want to have something in the fashion world and you want to be someone of prominence in the fashion world, you know, you get hooked up with Vogue. And this guy, being one of the first black fashion designers, being one of the first openly LGBT fashion designers in a time when there was heavy persecution of the LGBT community. Now, people are going to say, well, isn't that the world where LGBT people shine the most in the fashion world? Not necessarily, because you got to remember the stigmatism of the 1980s when he was operating, when he was doing his thing. Uh, was the time of the HIV epidemic, and there was heavy judgment, heavy stones being thrown at members of the LGBT community, and also in the fashion world, we know there is a lot of racism and discrimination. Even though African the African American community is on the point when it comes to the fashion world, still there's tons and tons of racism and discrimination, especially in the high fashion world, like Vogue magazine deals with. So that is something I learned about. But the other two, Louis Anderson and Meatloaf, also passing away. Meatloaf, Meatloaf, I knew about from that song. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. That came out, I believe, it was 91, 92, and he was apparently a rock and roll legend. He started on the 70s with Bat Out of Hell, and he was the star of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, uh, uh, a movie and a Broadway show that acquired such cult status, cult status amongst his fans and amongst fans of musicals. And he also did a cover of the Celine Dion song. It's all coming back to me now. Some people like the Celine Dion version. Some people like the Meatloaf version. As far as Louis Anderson, you'll all remember his cartoon Life with Louie in the 1990s, and when he was a host of Family Feud, one of the many uh, people that were hosts of Family Feud. He did a lot of voiceovers, and it was just like when I was just about ready to do the Meatloaf video. That's when all of a sudden I found out about Louis Anderson. Apparently, according to what Lisa told me, he was using he was getting some experimental cancer treatment like a couple of weeks ago, and then this happened. I found out about Meatloaf this morning and Andre Talley. As far as yeah, hey Lisa, how's it going? Wow, they said Meatloaf was COVID. Oh wow, I didn't. Andre, they don't know that. Okay, wow. I see, guys. It's now. Now that I'm knowing this, it's important that we get checked for COVID because wow, me, Meatloaf was in his 70s, so not to sound the alarm on COVID, but again, get checked, get tested, get vaccinated because you don't know. There are so many there are so many variants coming out. Louis was okay. Louis died from blood cancer. Yeah, the cancer thing. She was telling me about that. But I remember that show, Life with Louis. You know, let's see, guys, when it ran. Okay, okay, Life with Louis ran from 1994 to 1997. Many people will remember, and at least I do, people that watched professional wrestling or the WWF in the 1990s will remember that Life with Louis came on one time, after wrestling and before wrestling. It was a funny TV show. It was kind of like Bobby's World. It was about, of course, the life of Louis Anderson. Louis Anderson. And what many people don't know, that I'm just looking up right now, is that the show was very popular in Eastern Europe. Eastern European countries were in love with that show, Life with Louis. So yeah, these three. I remember seeing the behind the music. Remember that, Lisa, from back in the 90s? Behind the music VH1 show with featuring Meatloaf, and that's when I first learned about the life of Meatloaf. What I always kind of got them two mixed up was Meatloaf and Jack Black, because I remember going to see School of Rock, and the way that Jack Black would, sing and stuff was kind of like Meatloaf. And if you guys remember too, this is another time to wrestling. Meatloaf actually appeared on an episode of Monday Night Raw when they were doing in the early 2010s. They were doing the guest host, and Meatloaf appeared on an episode of Monday Night Raw as one of the guest hosts in like 2011, 2010, 2011. So yeah, this is devastating. The Louis Anderson one is the most shocking to me because it just happened so unexpected. But what I love about that song, jumping around to Meatloaf, Lisa says Andre dressed the Obamas one time. Oh wow! So he, he had a lot of high profile clientele. Jumping around, though, what I loved about that song, I'll Do Anything for Love, it kind of reminded me of the old Beauty and the Beast. There was a Beauty and the Beast um, movie out before 1991's Beauty and the Beast. Um, like in the 70s, it was a soap opera. And that video kind of reminded me of that old Beauty and the Beast. Let's look up when I'll Do Anything for Love came out. Okay, I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. The longest song, one of the longest songs in history, out in 1993. So Louie Anderson and Meatloaf kind of had their rise at the same time, 1993, 1994 time frame, period, you know, time frame period. So yeah, I love that video too. But the one thing people make fun of it because it's like, well, what is the thing that he won't? And I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. What's the thing that he won't do? The thing is, you gotta analyze the song correctly, because the thing that he won't do is he won't ever stop loving the girl. And just like in the movie Beauty and the Beast, and the TV show Beauty and the Beast, and the story Beauty and the Beast, the Beast in the show is kind of toxic. He's kind of stalkerish, and even in the video, he's kind of toxic and he's kind of stalkerish. But he loves and he's devoted to the girl. So the one thing he won't do at the end of the song, I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that, is he won't ever stop loving the girl. And the video is beautiful. There's a part in the video where she ascends, she descends, I mean, she ascends into heaven and stuff. And he's outside his castle. And I'm just like, damn, this is so Beauty and the Beast ish that if they ever did a live, well, they did a live Beauty and the Beast, I think in 2017, but Meatloaf was too old by then. But if they had done a live Beauty and the Beast movie, um, and he was younger, he could actually play Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, that should have been. See, that's another. At least that the song should have been for Beauty and the Beast soundtrack. That's another competition with him and Celine Dion because he should have got the soundtrack for Beauty and the Beast, the 1991 cartoon version, and uh, she should have not instead of her. She got the main title song and she got awards for it and she got accolades for it, but that should have been it. But he was one of those guys that he put a lot of opera into rock and roll because that's basically what that song is. Like it's like an opera song. It starts off slow, then it builds up and builds up. Just like in opera. If you ever watch an opera, like you watch, say, Aida, the opera, not the Broadway show. But if you watch, say, Aida, when they sing in opera, obviously they sing in Italian, right? But uh, they start off slow and they build up and build up. So that's basically what that song is, and it's telling the story of a guy who has basically unrequited love. But it could be a little bit stalkerish. I ain't gonna front, just like Beauty and the Beast itself. They People look at the story of Beauty and the Beast in a modern sense, and they say, "Well, that is mad toxic." You know what I mean? Like that is, you know what I mean? Like he's stalking her. He's outside her house. He's keeping her hostage for ransom because of something that a debt that her dad has to pay, and he keeps her locked in a dungeon. I mean, like it wouldn't fly in today's 2022 um, world of romance. But this is how, unfortunately, this is how romance is interpreted. In our popular culture, it's like you look at movies like, say, the 1980s movie Say Anything, right? And the guy is outside of the girl's window with the radio held up like this. Is like, damn, won't he just leave her alone? She said no is no, right? But in our society, traditionally, in terms of movies, books, television, and popular media, guys are traditionally rewarded for their persistence in pursuing love. You know what I mean? So, like, she turns you down once, keep going at it, keep trying, and you'll keep getting turned down, even in TV shows like Family Matters or TV shows like Saved by the Bell. Screech and them always get turned down by girls like Lisa and Laura, right? But they keep trying now. But if the opposite is not true in the popular culture, in the way that we see the world in popular culture, if a girl is persistent on a guy, then, oh well, she must be desperate. She must be, really creepy, right? It's not The girl is not rewarded in the end for her persistence in romance in the same way that a guy is. Who knows why that is? I think it has a lot to do with Western, what they call Western chivalry. But anyway, there's a lot of medieval type iconography and medieval type uh, imagery. Oh, they're all in their 70s, yes. In the video, go check the video out. And of course, Bad Out of Hell, Meatloaf, for in his prime, when he was, now granted, I didn't listen to his music, but I'm just saying, from that behind the music show, what I knew about him, and from Rocky Horror Picture, uh, he was a very agile man and a very athletic man for his size. He was on the bigger end in terms of his weight. He lost a lot of weight, you know, when he became older. But he was a bigger man, and he was known for his, on stage he was agile. You know what I mean? Would move around a lot. Again, his mannerisms was very similar to the mannerisms, and he was very similar in his look and his build to Jack Black. Like, if you think about the song he performs in Rocky Horror Picture Show, Hot Patootie, The opportunity, bless my soul. I really love that rock and roll. You know what I mean? That song, that's a song that involves a lot of movement. He was known for moving around a lot on stage. Uh, and yeah, yeah, three deaths at once, man. They say they come in threes, but like Lisa said, they were on their 70s, and all three guys were groundbreakers, really, in a sense, because yeah, Louis hosted Family Feud. He was before Richard Kern and uh, before Steve Harvey. Obviously, he was one of the funnier ones of the host of Family Feud. And he won a lot of awards for um, uh, Life, Life with Louie, like Mad Emmy Awards. Because, yes, oh, I forgot about that. He was in Coming to America. He was the only white guy in Coming to America, the only white comedian in Coming to America. He was also in Coming to America, Part 2, the one that came out last year. He was one of the workers at McDowell's. So I completely forgot about that, Lisa. Thank you. Um, yeah, and of course, André Talley broke down so many barriers in his world. And the way Andre dressed, uh, I love the way he dressed because he seemed like he was regal. You know what I mean? This one outfit that I saw, he was on some award show, and he seemed like he was regal. Like he stepped on stage and he was like a king. Like all black, right? All black, really cool gothic stuff. And he was out there in the way he dressed, but he was expressive, and he did his thing, breaking down barriers and breaking down walls for African American men and um, LGBT people in society. And if you really think about it, Louis Anderson broke down walls as well, because knowing that the show was popular in Eastern Europe at a time when Eastern Europe was opening up politically to the United States, and it was entertainment that was penetrating entertainment like music and stuff and TV shows and all that were penetrating um, Eastern Europe on behalf of America, and that was really softening relations between um, the Soviet Union and the United States. Oh wow, Louis and the transgender. Uh, wow, Lisa is ace, and Lisa is coming with a lot of things that I've never heard of. Thank you, Lisa. Louis Anderson played a transgender woman named Christine in a series called Baskets on FX. Again, another trendsetter. So he broke down walls as well. Look at that. Not only in terms of American and Russian relations, but in terms of portraying a trans character, kind of like Jeffrey Tambor on Transparent. One of the first non-trans people to portray uh, trans trans people in media. But anyway, rest in peace to these three individuals, these three trendsetters, these three icons in the fashion and entertainment world. And thank you guys, thank you Lisa for participating and informing me on this stuff. Anything else that you want to really add, Lisa, that you feel like is something that is, an add-on or something that people might not know about these three? Yeah, they all passed in 1 week. Um, Sad, man. And if it's true that Meatloaf passed because of COVID, I don't know Meatloaf's political views. I'm not gonna pretend to assume. Oh, he was he was conservative. I'm not saying he was, but if he was one of those conservative guys that is against the vaccine or against boosters, don't be that. You know what I mean? Get vaccinated. Stay safe. Love you guys. Peace.